Yeah. Okay. Good evening. First, I'd like to welcome our chaplain, Remco Bromett, to come up and lead us in invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's pray. Almighty God, we just want to pause tonight to, first of all, acknowledge that all good things come from you, and we enjoy prosperity and peace and relative safety. And we thank you for your hand of blessing upon us, your hand of grace upon us. And we also acknowledge the limitation of our own human minds and reasoning to govern the affairs of the city that are often very complicated. And so we pray for your wisdom and for your grace to rest upon the city council, upon the mayor, and upon the civil servants that run this city on a daily basis. And we need your hand of protection to continue to minister to the citizens of this town, to guarantee and guard their well-being. We ask for your protection on the police department and the fire department in their emergency response duties. And we ask for your hand upon the general citizenry for your protection and for your grace. We thank you for the privilege of serving you in public life this way, and we want to give you the glory tonight. I pray this in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, May 2nd, 2011 to order. The City Clerk, please call the roll and make general announcements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will be happy to call roll for the May 2nd, 2011 regular meeting. However, I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Additionally, those attending the meeting who would like to provide public comment either during the public hearings or during the call for public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on the item. There is no public comment for consent agenda items or items under first presentation. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the speaker cards were received by the city clerk prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization, if applicable. When you hear the bell, you will have 30 seconds remaining for your remarks. The City Council may allow public comment on either an agenda item or general public comment from a representative of such an organized group or association, provided, however, that such an individual shall file a notarized affidavit that they have the authority to speak on behalf of said organization on a form provided by the city clerk prior to tonight's meeting. Demonstration of any sort within this chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outbursts, or dialogue with any person speaking. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Thurman is absent and excused. Councilmember Julie Zonner Bailey.
Here.
Councilmember Bill Lusk is absent and excused. Councilmember Bert Hewitt.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria.
Here.
Councilmember Alan Tart.
Here.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I want to welcome everybody here tonight, and we'll move on to our agenda. Do we have any items that need to be considered?
Yes, Mayor. The first reading items, the text changes shown there, RZ 11-06 through RZ 11-10. All of those changes need to be postponed and deferred until the June meeting, the first meeting in June, which is, I believe, June 6th. June 6th regular council meeting. So if you would do that, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Is there anything, council? Any other items?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I would like to add a proclamation in observance of Public Service Recognition Week, which is this week.
Okay. Any others? Then do I have a motion?
On the Ken, on the deferring those first presentations, do we have to do that individually, or can we just change just strike them from the agenda?
When you're approving your agenda, that'll be fine. It's part of it.
I think, but Your question is, do we need to do this individually
I
and
mean-
vote on, or do we just strike them all and
Now, just
make
for
your...
all first presentation to June 6th, or do we have to vote on them and defer them?
I think I would prefer, for purposes of the record, I mean, are you going to go through motion by motion, do you think, or resolution by resolution, go down each one of them?
Or maybe just, how about if your motion includes
Include
delete
all of
and
them,
list?
That would be fine.
On the approving of the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the following changes: to add proclamation for Public Service Recognition Week, and then to to defer the following items under first presentation to the June the 6th meeting: RZ 1106, RZ 1107, RZ 1108, RZ 1109, and RZ 1110.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Hewitt, second by Councilmember Bailey, to amend our motion as read into the record. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, just one point with respect to the addition from Councilmember Tartt. Our rules basically stipulate that you have to put something on 7 days in advance, barring some unforeseen circumstance. I just want to call out the reason I think that's appropriate. That to me is a ceremonial sort of agenda item as opposed to something more substantive. So I'm fine with that. I just want to put that on the record.
Okay, thanks. Next item's public comment. And do we have any public comment?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me read the rules then. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own hearing during today's meeting. There's no discussion on items on the consent agenda or first presentation from the public or from council. Each citizen who chooses to participate in public comment must complete a comment card and submit it to the city clerk. And please remember, this is not a time to engage the members of the city council or mayor in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone, stating your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes for remarks. City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Yes, sir, we do have 4. Our first public comment comes from Laura Bentley.
Laura Bentley, 2500 Bethany Church Road. First of all, I want to thank you all for implementing the live stream. It's awesome, and I was listening last week, and so I was able to hear that the meeting was, there was a lot of public comment last week from many of my neighbors with regard to the redistricting of the high school. We also had a meeting with council members last week, and some council members weren't there, so I wanted to take this opportunity to give you a different perspective from the one that you may have heard from. For those of us that live in the shadow of the new high school, I think that we accepted the fact that our life as we knew it was going to change dramatically. Traffic is terrible there anyway. Bert, I sit and see you in your truck. You see me sitting there.
Did you guys carpool?
Yeah, we could do that, or I'm thinking mopeds. But from 2 years ago, when they decided the high school was going to go there, we accepted the fact that traffic would get much worse for us. It doesn't. The high school, it's not a great place. 6 schools on one road. So we've accepted that through time, and we have gone through the Fulton County process of determining what the criteria is to fill the school and the best way to do that. And I have been involved in those meetings, and I understand the criteria. What I'd like you to understand from a different perspective, folks that you maybe have not heard from, the capacity of the schools is very important to those of us that already have to deal with the traffic. And when Fulton County places their governance on this process, I put more faith into them because they've done this before. And so when you look at capacity, it's not just for the new high school. It's not just for Milton High School. It's for all of North Fulton, because if it's out of sync, it affects all of us. because they'll have to eventually correct it. So capacity globally is very important. And so I would like for you to just understand that there is a different group out there that accepts the fact that traffic is going to be awful. And I understand how bad it is. And I don't want traffic to be bad for my neighbors, but I also don't want to have my kids redistricted in another 2 years. And you all don't even have jurisdiction over that. So what I guess I'm asking you to understand is a different perspective. We never addressed you all because you are not the decision makers. And so when I see in the media and through CPAC, my good friends, people on CPAC that I respect and appreciate their involvement in our city and all that they do, I wanted to just be here tonight for you all to know that there are many people that are satisfied or content with those capacity numbers. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next comment comes from Mr. Paul Moore.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm Paul Moore. I live at 15290 White Columns Drive. I'd like to speak to you first as a private individual and then secondly as a person representing several additional citizens. My comments as a private individual are 6 years ago we made a good decision as a community to bring our governance closer to home by creating the city of Milton, recognizing that there were some things that Fulton County wasn't doing on our behalf very well. And we, having created the city, have taken those things upon ourselves and have done a great job of creating a city that is vibrant and successful. And I think people will tell you they're glad to live in Milton and it's an attractive place for people to come to coming in the future. What it also did was it gave us a voice in larger politics. And what I would ask you respectfully to do is to offer a voice to the Board of Education as the mayor and council as to what it does to our city by adopting the current plan that's been put forth by the Board of Education. So I would ask that you put forward a resolution just saying that we believe that there are some issues with this. I know the mayor has, in good faith, offered staff to be available to the Board of Education for consideration of the issues that do arise as a result of the plan. But I would ask that we do it in a formal resolution that's, to a certain extent, mandates the Board of Education take a look at that. Second, and I would like to address you now as a member of 6 different individuals who happen to be members of the Planning Commission. We are not here to represent the Planning Commission position this evening because there isn't one. But separate and apart from the Planning Commission, 6 of us have written a letter we would like to have you here this evening. To the Mayor and Council from Planning Commission members regarding the Board of Education school redistricting. The undersigned members of the Milton's Planning Commission opposed Plan C of the redistricting plan proposed by the Fulton County Board of Education. The Planning Commission is charged with assessing a variety of issues that come before the city and acting as a recommending body to the mayor and city council. Members have an acute awareness of land use plans included in Milton's comprehensive plan, and we believe Plan C is in conflict with several of the basic goals of the comprehensive plan. We also believe Plan C is in conflict with the tenets of the Milton Transportation Plan and the Lou Oliver Crab-Apple Master Plan. Plan C calls for a majority of the students that would attend the new high school in Bethany Bend to travel in an east-west traffic pattern. The primary feeder roads to this new high school are Birmingham Road, Red Road, Bethany Bend, and Providence Road. Each of these roads is already at or over capacity. The new student, family, and bus traffic on these roads will destroy the fragile balance of cross-county commuter traffic from Cherokee County and the current Milton resident commuter traffic that has already put these roads at or over capacity. The Board of Education Plan C also calls for a majority of the future students at Milton High School to come from the current Roswell district. The primary feeder roads for the Roswell students traveling to Milton will be Crab-Apple Road through the Crab-Apple intersection and Bethany Road to Mayfield Road. These roads are at or over capacity of the current infrastructure. The Crab-Apple Master Plan, recently proposed by Lou Oliver, calls for traffic calming measures for the already burdensome traffic volume and patterns. The traffic volume that would result from the significant student population coming through these crossroads as a part of Plan C will destroy any possibility for the new Crab-Apple plan being a success. We respectfully request the mayor and city council formally propose Plan C and ask the Board of Education to develop a redistricting plan that takes the traffic components of Plan A and Plan B into consideration while considering the future of Milton. Please pass a resolution that formally advises the Board of Education that the mayor and city council of Milton oppose Plan C and call for the creation of a new redistricting plan. The Board of Education should also be asked to formulate plans to reduce the number of private vehicles traveling to and from all the schools in the area, regardless of which plan is adopted. Significant traffic is generated by individual cars picking up and dropping off students. Parents should be encouraged to place all students on Board of Education-provided buses, thereby reducing the traffic congestion, enhancing safety of pedestrians, and preserving the environment. And this is from the undersigned members of the Planning Commission, George Ragsdale, Paul Moore, Joe Kramer, Jennifer Fletcher, Curtis Mills, and Fred Edwards. Thank you.
May I just clarify, those names they're speaking individually, not as the Planning Commission?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes, these are all speaking as individuals, not as members of the Planning Commission.
Right. Thank you.
Our next public comment comes from John Carroll.
John Carroll, 2140 Country Ridge Road. When we switched over from CH2M Hill to direct employees, I mean, one of the main benefits was a cost savings. And, currently we have a huge problem in this country between benefits that have been promised to our government employees versus the municipalities not being able to pay the government employees anymore. And this is because all the, cost estimates that they used for how much they were going to make on investments and all that was basically a Ponzi scheme. They didn't, it only worked when there were more government employees and there were retirees. And my concern is I just want to make sure that we in Milton are not leaving ourselves a problem for 10, 20 years from now where we're going to be in the same situation. I'm not talking about revisiting the decision. I'm just saying that I want to make sure that when we do our analysis of the costs, that we are really putting realistic interest rates, based for our investments. I just want to make sure we don't create a system where, 20 years from now, we're having to tell employees, hey, that have retired from Milton, we can't afford you anymore. I just want to make sure that we're looking at that because a lot of governments, have set up these guidelines and we're probably within all the, official guidelines of what you should be in, but we need to make sure that we go beyond that if it's going to lead to a problem with Milton. And I guess a second thing is about all the school stuff. I don't really care about the different plans, but I agree that we need to, I know you guys don't have the legal ability to do these things, but we need to have the Board of Education to be responsible in some manner to the different committees that the cities, not just Milton, but all the cities have set up for traffic planning and everything else, because right now the main issue is that they're putting schools that really should be in Roswell or Alpharetta, they're putting them in Milton and creating this problem. And it's because they have no oversight and there's nothing that you can really do. And I would just suggest to you, beyond whatever you end up doing, other things that may be recommended, is that whenever you're together with other city councilmen from other cities and mayors, and when you have a state representative ear to mention that we need a state ordinance or state guidelines that forces them to take our concerns and the concerns of the other areas in consideration when they make these plans. So, thanks.
Thank you, sir. And just for the record, we have a man sitting in the back corner that takes care of looking out for our future with our benefits and all that, so we are on top of that. Thank you.
And our final public comment is regarding 11096 agenda item number, so that would be during the public hearing.
Say that again.
That would be during the public hearing.
Okay.
The last.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. City Clerk would list the items on the consent agenda.
Approval of the April 11th, 2011 special called work session, agenda item number 11-089. Our next item is approval of the April 11th, 2011 regular council meeting minutes, agenda item number 11-090.
Okay, I have a motion.
Mayor, I'll move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Longoria, second by Councilmember Tart. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, we're going to move on to our reports and presentations.
This is a Public Service Week proclamation being presented by Councilmember Alan Tart.
Good evening, everyone. The events of the last 24 hours offer a nice backdrop for this proclamation. As you all know, it was public servants, elected officials, appointed officials, but more importantly, our men and women in uniform in the intelligence community that carried out an operation to kill Osama bin Laden. And I just want to, and I think I can speak for all of us up here, that we want to congratulate not only our current leaders, but past leaders as well, for remaining steadfast in that operation. So congratulations in that. Here at the local level, however, most of us do not risk our lives to be able to provide services to our citizens, with the exception, of course, of our police officers and our men and women in the fire and police departments. I had the opportunity last Thursday to be able to go train with the fire department, and although I had utmost respect for you guys before being able to do that, I am in awe of you now. I was able to dress in full garb with an oxygen mask, much the same as Councilmember Hewitt did, and got to go into a house and put out a burning fire. And although I tried to get the victim out, I ran out of oxygen. And although there might have been some other factors there, including my lack of being in shape, that prevented me from getting that person out, it was the oxygen tank that was without oxygen, and I'm sticking to it. But it just underscores the need for public servants and how grateful we are to have all of you as part of our team to help the city progress. A tremendous amount of work has gone into this city since it was incepted in 2006. The efforts of a dedicated team of elected officials, as well as our talented and hardworking city staff, as well as our committed and enthusiastic citizen volunteers. All of you are to be commended for your work in moving this city forward. And because of you, we have achieved much success in the few years that we've been a city. So it's my honor to be able to not only present but share in this award with you, this proclamation with you. So I'll read it now. Proclamation, Public Service Recognition Week, May 1st through the 7th, 2011. Whereas Americans are served every day by public servants at the federal, state, and local levels, and these unsung heroes do the work of our nation. And whereas public employees take not only jobs but oaths and are bound by ethical codes. And whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, healthcare professionals, and others, risk their lives each day in service to the people of the city of Milton, the state of Georgia, the United States, and the world. And whereas public servants also include teachers, elected officials, city staff, citizen committee and board members, and countless other paid and unpaid occupations and positions. And whereas public servants in the city of Milton have worked tirelessly to ensure the safety and welfare of our citizens, raise awareness and appreciation for the diversity in our community, preserve our land, waterways, and historic structures, encourage economic growth, and make improvements to our infrastructure, all of which serve to improve the quality of life of our current residents and generations to come. And whereas day in and day out, these public servants provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government with efficiency, integrity, and honor. And whereas without public servants at every level, continuity and progress would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Milton, Georgia, do hereby proclaim the week of May 1st through 7th, 2011, as Public Service Recognition Week in the City of Milton, and encourage all citizens to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, federal, state, county, and local, and urge all citizens to join in expressing their appreciation to these individuals, given under my hand and seal of the City of Milton, Georgia, on the 2nd day of May, 2011, Mayor Joe Lockwood. If all of the city officials, including volunteers and city staff and elected officials, would join me down front, I'll present the proclamations.
And I have 16 of these proclamations, so if you don't get one, I promise you will get one. Sue has told us we would. Thank you. Thank you. Elected officials.
First plane.
Congratulations.
Michelle, we get a two.
We're gonna skip this.
Congratulations, sir. How about you? Congratulations, although we pay you.
You mentioned pay. Ken?
Thank you, sir.
Lynn?
Congratulations, sir.
Thanks, Sudie. Appreciate everything you did.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
It's just a big hug. This is.
You know, I need 12 hugs a day, so this is one way to go. Yeah, I like it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
It's my pleasure. Really, I can only imagine. I'm like, hey, something different. Oh, yeah.
They get a two for with Michelle. Two servants. She's about to pop.
Oh, that's right, we'll blur.
Let's everybody, if you want to be in the photo, come in the photo.
You made it.
You're probably going to need 2 rows, given how many people there are. So we can break up into 2 rows. If you're a little bit taller, if you can be in the back. Just break up into 2 rows here, and we can kind of
It's all relative.
What you need to do is let's say, use the edge of that right there, where Mr. Longoria is, to about where Ken is. So if you guys can come over with Councilman Longoria. Sudie, could you come over? And yeah, just sort of get right there. And get everybody in. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3.
Hey, Jason.
Thank you.
Hey, last week, Chris used your camera,
Yeah.
and you didn't have to do all that one.
You're gonna Photoshop yourself in like.
Jonathan, will you get a picture of him in the picture?
Hey, Jonathan, cut his face.
Come on, Jason.
Right here.
One, two.
That's right.
Thank you all very much.
Ken, how did your sewage smell meeting go?
You know, it went well.
Did it?
Actually, yeah, it did.
Does it really smell? Or can you say that right now?
They say it does. I've never smelled it, but I've never.
You don't live there?
They are.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, since we deferred the first presentation by motion and vote, I'm going to move on to our public hearing. Will the city clerk please sound the item?
Approval of a resolution imposing a limited and temporary moratorium upon issuance of business licenses to new pain management clinics within the city of Milton. This is agenda item number 11-096. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I could go over quickly the proposed moratorium in your packet, and then we can maybe open the public hearing after that, so at least they can understand what we're talking about. You have in your agenda packet a proposed resolution that would institute a moratorium with respect to business licenses for what we're calling so-called pill mills or pain clinics within the city of Milton, and primary justification for our ability to impose this moratorium is set forth in the whereas clauses that references particularly a Broward County grand jury report. I'm not going to read it to you or even read the whereas statements, but I think what you will find is they present compelling evidence that when you have these bona fide pain clinics or pill mills, what you find are associated elements of increased crime. You see proliferation of narcotic drug use and a proliferation of narcotic distribution that is not linked to any actual medical benefit, but that is basically a drug trade practice. And that is the evil that we are attempting to put a moratorium on in the city of Milton. And the reason we're endeavoring to put this moratorium on these sorts of business licenses is to give the state of Georgia and the legislature an opportunity to act in this field, so they can provide some legislation in the field before any of these locate in our jurisdiction. This is a very customary thing to do, is to try and stop it before it gets started, and that's exactly what we're endeavoring to do. I will go ahead and cut down to the chase. The moratorium that the city of Milton would enact would run until April of 2012. If you look in paragraph 1 of the resolution, it provides that this moratorium would be implemented with an intention of providing the state of Georgia the opportunity to address relevant legislation that would impact, obviously in a favorable way, the city's ability to regulate pain management clinics and provide the city of Milton an opportunity to develop its own companion ordinances. The notion being the state of Georgia would act, we would then in turn do what we need to do on our legislative end to make sure that we mirror that legislation and perhaps even make it more rigorous to prevent these sorts of clinics. What does it apply to? The moratorium as drafted would apply to all privately owned pain management clinics, facilities, or offices for the sale or dispensing of any type of pain management services or dispensing controlled substance medications and defined as a Schedule 2, 3, 4, or 5 controlled substance as defined by Georgia law. Chronic non-malignant pain, this is just definitional, is pain unrelated to cancer which persists, 1, beyond the usual course of the disease or the injury that is the cause of the pain, or more than 90 days after surgery. The moratorium, and this is important for your citizens, does not apply to those elements are identified in paragraph 3. A licensed pharmacy of a hospital that dispenses such substances for the purpose of inpatient or outpatient hospital care, a licensed pharmacy of a hospital, a retail pharmacy of a hospital that dispenses prescriptions for controlled substances at the time of dismissal or discharge from such a facility, or a licensed pharmacy of a hospital or retail pharmacy of a hospital that dispenses or administers such substances for long-term care, patients, or inpatient hospice facilities. We also reference institutional pharmacies. Paragraph 3, it would not apply to a practitioner or other authorized person who administers such a substance. And then number 4, a pharmacy operated by or on behalf of or under contract with the Department of Corrections. Lynn and I were talking about this as the meeting was getting started, and we might want to think about some additional language, another paragraph that would read something like this. This would not apply to a licensed standalone retail pharmacy or a licensed pharmacy part of a grocery store, wherein at the same physical location are also sold vitamins, supplements, food products, school supplies, cosmetics, and sundries. And I'm sure you can understand exactly what those would capture, which would be your retail chains, pharmacies and Publix and Kroger's and things of that nature. Other than that modification, which I can read out if you're inclined to adopt this, we have, pursuant to Georgia law, run a legal ad, which we believe will give us the horsepower to adopt this sort of moratorium for about a year. Mr. Mayor, that's my presentation.
Okay. Do we have any questions right now for Mr. Gerard, or we'll open it up to public comment?
Yes, sir. Our first
No,
public.
Did you have a question now, Julie?
I'll wait.
Or you want to wait? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Fred Edwards.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Fred Edwards. I am a registered pharmacist, and I reside at 915 Hopewell Place Drive in the city of Milton. I'm also on the Planning Commission, as you know, but I am speaking only for myself. I'm here to ask you to support the moratorium on pain clinics in the city of Milton. Pain clinics continue to support the use of dangerous drugs to drug addicts, individual prescription drug users, as well as some teenagers who have now found a way to continue their drug habits. Until such time that you, the City Council and Mayor, can establish and state clearly defined regulations and, for us, ordinances, I would ask that you support the vote on the moratorium. Several other cities, as well as one county, has either passed a moratorium or an ordinance in the last year regarding these clinics. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
No, sir.
And I'll close the public hearing and open it up to discussion or questions from council to Mr. Gerard. Alan?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one question. In the past, when we have issued moratoriums, they have been for 60 days, no more than, and we've extended those in 30-day increments. And I believe issues were brought up at the time regarding constitutional issues. So could you speak to that, since this is a year?
I would. Typically what you find is that you have the ability to adopt a moratorium for 30 days, perhaps a little more, 60 days, without a public hearing. That's the typical sort of constitutional safeguard, is you need to have that public hearing. But obviously public hearings take time, they have to give due notice, and a lot of times the evil that's attempting to be avoided can in fact not be avoided if you have to wait 30 days to get a public hearing set up. On this one, we took a little more methodological approach, and that was we went ahead and had the public hearing now. And the reason we did the public hearing now is to go ahead and have it for the full year. So I'm very comfortable that we have done all the necessary procedural safeguards to be able to support this for that period of time.
If I may add also, one of the things, I've been working with Chief Harrell on this as well, and one of the things that we've been watching is some state legislation that's going through. It appears that legislation has passed, however, they haven't put together the mechanisms that it takes to actually monitor these drugs. So as we wait to see how they propose to get these things monitored, we can then tailor our regulations to that, but it may take some time.
And Lynn makes a good point. You know, the reality is that while we could adopt this moratorium for this period of time, we might even want to craft some language that says that the moratorium automatically expires the day that we pass our own ordinance or the state passes legislation that otherwise affects this issue. So I think that's a fair statement. Hopefully it won't take a year. Perhaps it'll take 6 months, perhaps less.
Yeah, Ken, I appreciate you bringing this up. I think everybody's pretty much aware of some of the stuff that's been going on here. I know Florida's had to crack down on this practice, and I would hate to think that it was migratory, but you just never know. We're just right above Florida, so I appreciate you working on this. In the same way that you added some additional text, I think it was in paragraph 4, related to commercial pharmacies associated with grocery stores, retail outlets, CVS, things like that. Have we thought through, are there any other legitimate businesses that could be impacted, specifically doctor's offices, emergency care centers, things like that, that we don't accidentally step on rules and regulations for them?
I think that with the addition of the language that I talked about this evening, we will have captured any other legitimate user. However, the proof's in the pudding. The proof's once you begin to actually implement it. And if anything comes to, I'm sure, Lynn or the chief's attention, where it is obviously an unintended consequence, because as best a job we do, inevitably there may be some legitimate purpose that skirts right through. We'll bring it back to you. We're not going to penalize a legitimate subscriber of these scheduled drugs at all. We won't do that.
Julie?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One, several of the questions helped to address some of mine. Just maybe an extension of Councilmember Longoria's. I'm assuming that we don't have any businesses currently where this applies. Again, this is all intended to be in anticipation and prospective. Obviously, as others have commented, I really appreciate you bringing it forward. It's obviously important and necessary. Are you suggesting, Ken, that we do go ahead and add language that would say or automatically expires when the city adopts other specific language?
I am suggesting that very thing.
Okay, and do you, the way I just noted that, would that be satisfactory, or do you have other legal language that you would want to adopt?
I like what you said.
So just to repeat that, or automatically expires when the city of Milton adopts other specific language that would apply?
Yes, ma'am. I also want to say, just for purposes of full disclosure, I think that actually Lynn and Chief Harold have really taken this by the horns as far as the inception of this.
I just have a question, and while I certainly support this resolution and this moratorium, just want to make sure, and I'm sure you have, we're on the right path, but are we stepping on anybody's constitutional rights, or with dictating what business you can have and you can't? I just want to make sure you're comfortable with.
A couple things to answer in responding to that. I think we're doing an overabundance of caution, quite frankly, in holding the public hearing and running the legal ad the way we have run it. So I'm very comfortable with that. To your specific point, could someone challenge this moratorium within the next year? Absolutely. Whenever you prohibit something that may have at least an aura of legality, someone may want to come in and challenge us and try to set up shop and do this before, quite frankly, the state legislation becomes meaningfully effective. But if we do that, I think that under a legitimate exercise of the city's police power, we will defend it. So the answer is yes, we could get challenged on it. I don't see that looming right now. I don't think Lynn's aware of anyone that's knocking our door down trying to put one of these facilities in Milton. And quite frankly, if you're trying to choose from a jurisdiction that has a moratorium and one that doesn't, you may go to that one because it's easier to get it done.
Okay, that's all I have. Do you want to make a motion?
Mayor, I have a motion to put forward, if I may.
Sure.
I would put forward a motion to approve agenda item number 11-096, the approval of a resolution imposing a limited and temporary moratorium upon the issuance of business licenses to new pain management clinics within the city of Milton, with a few minor adjustments, that being the inclusion of what Mr. Gerard noted in terms of paragraph 3, which would further delineate that it would not apply to standalone pharmacies or those that are part of grocery stores, et cetera, again, as was articulated by Mr. Gerard.
Yes, ma'am.
And then also inserting language that would say until April of 2012, or that this would automatically expire when the city adopts other specific language that would apply herein.
Okay, second.
No question. That's all right. Second the motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Bailey, second by Councilmember Tart. And just to clarify point of order, we
Yes, sir.
kind of moved in from our public hearing into the business part of this. So this is under new business. So, is there any discussion, Council?
For purposes of the record, Mr. Mayor, would you mind if I went ahead and read my blurb real quick, just so when she's doing the minutes, it'll be easier? The language that Councilmember Sonner Bailey added, in addition to the when it was effectively over language, was a licensed standalone retail pharmacy or a licensed pharmacy that is part of a grocery store where at the same physical location are also sold vitamins, supplements, food products, school supplies, cosmetics, and other sundries.
Okay. Any other discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right, I think we're through with new business. Is there any reports on council? Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Okay,
Can I make just one quick comment?
sure.
I just wanted to say that for anybody who had family, including the mayor and others, obviously caught up in some of this terrible weather that we've seen throughout the state and throughout our neighboring states, we just need to give a lot of prayer and a lot of thought and anything that we can do, and obviously to the public servants that are out there helping to help those that need a lot of help. I know that there's also some efforts within the city by citizens to gather items and goods, and so I just would suggest that we all be mindful of those opportunities to help either people or families that we know, but also obviously have outreach to those that we don't. There's just a lot of effort that's going to be underway, so just thank you.
Yeah, and I'd just like to piggyback on that. In fact, this Sunday we took a load of items over to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I guess the good thing is that the stuff that we had brought and several other people from Milton is kind of going on second tier, just storing it in a campus building because there's been so much outpouring. But that being said, I don't say that to tell people not to bring stuff. They're realizing the fact that at first everybody jumps out there and volunteers and helps, but after a week or two, and this continues on for months, they still need people to volunteer and help out. So if we could, ask everybody to help out as much as they could down the road. So. Okay, any other council? Any staff reports?
Yes, just a few. The first is the sign ordinance. I know that we as staff were asked to come back to you with a recommendation. We are still working on that. I'd like to bring that back to you when our city manager is also present so that we can be sure that we have a solid idea and a solid recommendation for you all to move forward with changes to the sign ordinance. Number two, I wanted to let you know that the LCI request for proposals will be advertised on Monday, so that will be open then on Monday for folks to start looking at that. If you have something in particular that's a big item that you don't want us to miss, please let me know by Wednesday so that I can get that in there. The third thing is the future land use plan for Forsyth County, where it matches our borders. Staff is currently looking to provide some recommendations for them, some comments during its comment period, so that we can have more of a transitional arrangement between our future land use plan and their future land use plan where those borders are matching. So we're working on that, and we'll provide some commentary to them. So if you hear anybody from Forsyth, you'll know that we've been talking to them. The last item is a cell tower on Shirley Industrial Way, also in Forsyth County, but just at our border. If you remember, this same property about a year ago had a proposal for a recycling facility. I don't think that went through. However, they are asking for a cell tower right now. It's a 154-foot monopole tower. It's a T-Mobile application. Knowing our fairly consistent reaction to cell towers and their placement and design, staff will be preparing some recommendations also for Forsyth County when they open the public participation meeting to have just some comments as to how they could maybe disguise some of that from our borders. So those are the only items I have. If you have any questions about any of those, either of those last two items, the cell tower or the future land use plan for Forsyth, I've got copies here of the applications and those maps. So.
Okay, thank you. And sure.
Very quickly, Lynn, and thank you very much for being on top of both of those items within Forsyth. Even though the Shirley Industrial Way is not specifically within the borders of Milton, because there could be citizens that would be concerned, and I know that we all make that effort to ensure that folks are aware of items, whether those be zoning or other land use sorts of changes. Would it be reasonable for us to at least have that posted on our website so that folks that may have an interest, and it might be a suggestion that whether it be in Cherokee County in the future or Forsyth, if we could have something on our website that tracks those sorts of items that have an impact on us, but that citizens may or may not have as much awareness
A
of.
couple of thoughts. First of all, legally, of course. And secondly, I mean, you might even be able to link up with, I know in Forsyth, I don't know if Cherokee has this technology or not, but you could maybe hyperlink directly to the county's website where they have sort of the status of it as it goes through. Might be helpful for your citizens to be able to click there and go out.
I think it would be. So if it would be consistent with everybody else's intent, I mean, I think just a communication issue, I think that could be quite helpful to have that out on our website. And then with regards to the future land use plan of Forsyth, what is the timetable by which they need input from Milton?
They are, their first comment period will be through the 8th of May. So, and they also have all of their information online. You can submit comments personally online via their website as well. There's a link directly from their homepage. And then they'll open it back up again in the fall for the same part of the process, kind of like what we did. They'll go through the rest of their community agenda, and then they'll open it back up again for additional public comment at approximately the fall is what they're shooting for. So.
And again, along those lines, especially with that kind of a short timetable, and maybe if Jason's here, hello, Jason, if we could even do a release that would, again, provide our citizens some advanced knowledge that that's underway. We have a lot of bordering lands, obviously, in Forsyth, and so, again, I think we have a responsibility, so thank you for your involvement. But if we can proactively communicate that out and let folks know how it is that they can, in fact, provide input. And then, of course, our committees, whether it's CPAC or the Planning Commission, that way also those members of committees become more proactively aware, because we do need to be concerned about those borders for transition.
Yes, ma'am.
And again, Ken, I just want to confirm your feedback on that, because as you represent other jurisdictions, I certainly want us all to work together to not have surprises either way for our citizens, but don't want to step over the line either. And
Listen, I think it's fine. It's input, and input is certainly fair game, and particularly when it's on the boundary, I think there's legitimate.
I would think as long as it's specific that, if you have concerns, here's where you can give your input.
That's right.
Not
yes.
so that it's directed at the city like we can do something about it, and then have us
right. And I think it would
trying
be
to push
helpful
the county.
to even have some sort of text that indicates that our staff is, of course, working with Forsyth, but I think because these borders obviously are so significant to many of our residents, there are folks that border directly on Forsyth's county line.
Just to get a kind of a feel and a direction for our staff, is the council on board, the majority of council on board with something like that? Alan, Joe, or okay. Good
Thank
deal.
you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, there's nothing else. Just go and communicating with Chris a little bit, and sounds like he's staying very busy. He said it's pretty intense, his training, so that's hopefully that'll benefit our city. Thank you, the rest of the staff, for stepping up. That's going to conclude our meeting, so I'll ask for a motion that we adjourn.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second that we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.